guys, welcome back to Set Streets and Eats. I'm Chris Bauer. I am here in Simi Valley, California. Simi Valley is about, 40 miles or so outside of Los Angeles, up in the mountains, as you can see. I am here today to visit the Presidential Library and Museum of Ronald Reagan, our 40th President of the United States. It's right behind me there. I'm pretty excited to see this one. This one has a full Air Force One 747 jet inside the place. So that sounds very intriguing, and I definitely want to learn more about the 40th president. He's the president that I remember first growing up, because I was born in 1977. So when I remember as a kid knowing our US president, and of course his picture was in my schools, it was Ronald Reagan. So he was a former actor turned governor and then eventually president, and we're gonna go learn about him, and I hope you guys will join me. Let's travel.
Welcome to the Oval Office. Though I spent years in this office, I never thought of it as mine. I was just the latest temporary occupant in a long and distinguished mine. Earlier still, Queen Victoria presented the magnificent desk to President Rutherford B. Hayes. Crafted from the timbers of Her Majesty's ship, Resolute, it's an enduring symbol of friendship. While I loved the desk, I must admit that it wasn't perfect. In fact, carpenters had to raise the desk a couple of inches. It was either that, or I would have had to lower my knees. And the world came calling as well. Mother Teresa visited this room. So did Margaret Thatcher and Mikhail Gorbachev. Unfortunately, for all the power possessed by an American president, there are some things beyond his control. Here I met with hostages newly released from the hell of Beirut. I'll never forget the feeling of horror that accompanied the explosion of the Challenger space shuttle. For the morning, I invited congressional leaders over to hear a tape recording of a Soviet pilot locking on to the ill-fated Korean flight 007. It still chills my blood to think of those 269 innocent passengers. And it was here that I first learned of Nancy's impending cancer surgery. So you see, you don't just give speeches in the Oval Office. You also say prayers. Above all, you pray for peace.
He had a lot of high school and college accolades. Of course, he was into drama, which led to him becoming an actor. Of course, he got to start in radio. Old Dutch. That name, Dutch, would stay with him his whole life. Celebrate his movies. He left Hollywood to serve in World War II. So you can press for clips. And then you have this phone as if you're in prison, and you can listen to said clips. This is his 1-1 for the Gipper speech. A very classic speech. This is pretty cool. So they have a green screen set up, and you can pick one of his we're going to do calling to Chicago Cubs baseball game. My lines are in white. Here we go. Bottom of the third now with a score of 0-0. Klein is up for the Cubs. Rowe winds up once more. He throws, the batter swings. There's a long drive back into right field. So it doesn't look like you get to keep the clips, but you can sit there and do that. Just something fun to do while you're here. A little interactive, nothing wrong with that. Nancy and Ronnie. Love story for the ages.
In late 1941, America entered World War II.
So he became governor in 1967 to 75. I know he ran for president, I think 3 times, maybe twice. We'll find out. So this is dealing with the energy crisis, and just the late 70s and 1980s was really rough. The recession was in full swing. I know my city of Flint, Michigan was directly affected by the early 1980s. In fact, Michael Moore made the film Roger and Me. It was a documentary that launched his career, but it was about General Motors pulling out of Flint and going overseas. And Ronald Reagan even came to Flint in the movie. They film it for that, and it was really tough in my town during this presidency. And yeah, I didn't really notice. My parents were really awesome at keeping the fact that we were poor away from us. So they did a really good job at covering that fact up. Didn't really know it till I was grown.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Is it easier for you to go and buy things in the stores than it was 4 years ago? Is there more or less unemployment in the country than there was 4 years ago? Is America as respected throughout the world as it was?
His inaugural suit and Nancy's, I would say, quite famous outfit. I've definitely seen many photos of her in that coat and hat. You can stand at the podium on Inauguration Day 1980, and looks like you can read the teleprompter and give Reagan's speech, which is kind of cool. So you got the teleprompters right there. Senator Hatfield, Mr. Chief Justice, Mr. President, Vice President Bush, Vice President Mondale, Senator Baker, Speaker O'Neill, Reverend Muma. My fellow citizens, it is time to realize we're too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams. So this is the hotel of the assassination attempt.
Would you like to see the assassination attempt?
I would.
Okay.
Where's the best place to
Just
stand?
stand here,
Right here?
and then close the door. Are you going
Oh,
to like
wonderful.
this one? And once this door is closed,
So,
you close the door.
John Hinckley Jr. stood in the crowd outside of, I think it was the Hilton, and waited for the president to exit and attempted to assassinate him. He was right over there. They, of course, pinned him against the wall, took him away. At first, they thought Ronald Reagan was not hit, but once they got to the hospital, he collapsed, and they found that he had been hit underneath the arm, narrowly missing his heart. Oh, that's neat. They actually still have his suit that he was wearing. Wow.
allay a nation's fears. If Reagan honestly dismisses his own comment, he'll America's peace of mind.
So this isn't the actual gun, but this is one that's close to it. It's a 22 caliber, very small pistol.
12 days later, his winning smile intact and a bulletproof vest replaced.
One of his Secret Service agents was killed.
After I left the hospital and was back to the White House, I wrote a few words that the life, friends, and names immensely
There was some confusion after this happened with the Secretary of State. I think James Baker was his name. He thought that if the vice president, since George Bush was in a plane outside the country and the president was obviously incapacitated, he thought he was next in line to be president and he was in charge. Obviously the Speaker of the House should be third in charge, but he sort of took over charge for at least a small amount of time on that day until they corrected it. Too great embarrassment to him, but he was just trying to fill the void, I guess.
But that was given to him by Mrs. Reagan's dad. And he said, President Reagan started eating jelly beans because he wanted to stop smoking a pipe. He started smoking a pipe when he was in college, I think. And he did it when he was on the radio. He did color commentary for the Cubs.
So there's a few things on the Resolute desk replica that they have that were actually in the Oval Office during Reagan's administration that he took with him. Some of his personal effects, and they have them here. This Oval Office, you're not allowed to sit at the desk like in some of the past ones, but still pretty cool. It's definitely an exact recreation of the Oval Office. The Wasserman Foundation is Lou Wasserman, who was longtime head of Universal Studios in Hollywood. The Reagan Diaries. Oh, he journaled every day. That's interesting. The Eagle Podium. They have it here. Now that's something you don't see every day. Wow. There's presidential limo and some of the Secret Service vehicles and cop vehicles. Wow. Boy, that thing's big. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to do a shot. That would be awesome. That's cool. We're going into Air Force One.
Hello.
Hello.
Air Force One. So the flight deck is where the pilots were.
Sure.
Fly the plane.
Oh my Lord. Look at that view.
Sometimes President Reagan was showing him the picture on the wall before that work. So he would
Oh, you come up and sit with the flight crew? That's awesome.
The Boeing 707, President Reagan flew over 600,000 miles.
Wow.
On this plane, went to 26 countries. Now, this is the communications center manned by the military. See the two military officers sitting in the chairs? All the calls coming on or off the plane would come through here. So if the White House called, that would come through here.
Wow.
Telephones on the wall would talk cabin to cabin or talk up here, but could not make outgoing calls.
Okay.
This black briefcase in the middle. is
Oh,
called
the football, yep.
It would have been carried by Colonel Chilander when he traveled with President Reagan. It said in case of a nuclear alert, there's a satellite phone connecting to the command center. Now we do have a mannequin of Colonel Chilander in the next cabin.
Okay.
With his real uniform he donated when he retired.
Okay.
This is the small cabin, or
Oh,
kitchen
sure.
or galley to feed the President, Mrs. Reagan, and the crew.
They use crystalline china from the White House. They either would cook it here or they would bring food from the Air Force Base and heat it. Now the first stateroom would be the president's, and the next one Mrs. Reagan's. And just when you look at there, just remember that that's the chair.
Notice the seat belt has the presidential seal, and the other seat belts do not. Just in case you found yourself in the wrong seat. Of course, the jelly beans on the desk. Wow. It's a lot smaller than the movie Air Force One. There's Nancy's cabin. Her jacket. Picture of her in here. This was kind of the board area or cabinet area. Lots of big decisions made here, I'm sure. Letting you know when your flight's coming in.
The next section is for guests traveling with the president, and that's where they'd be seated. The section after that is Secret Service and all the rooms and press.
So they've got the audio of the air conditioning, and then the plane is at a 2% tilt. It really does feel like you're on a plane. Like I feel like I'm going back toward, the bathroom. It's pretty neat. This is the press corps. Someone left their camera. Fools. Oh, look at that chocolate cake. Yum. And then the lavatories at the back. They of course have his Marine One also here as well. Man, look at that thing. It's not 747, I was wrong earlier, it is a 707. But it's still big, real big. So I did the photo in front of Air Force One. You can do photos in front of Air Force One, Marine One, and a couple other spots here in the museum, and then buy the digital copies. I really only wanted the digital, but you kind of have to buy the actual physical copies to get the digital. They're not cheap. It was $40 for the cheapest package, and then also it was $29.95 to get in, which is the highest I've run into so far. But you get a lot of bang for your buck at this one. So Ronald Reagan's favorite snack was jelly beans, so they made a portrait of it, which is reminiscent of the portrait of Jungle Jim's at Jungle Jim's grocery store in Cincinnati, Ohio. They also have a jelly bean portrait. I'll link right up here to that episode if you want to check that out.
To me, when I was 18 years old.
Oh, that's incredible.
Thank you. So I was in first grade when the space shuttle blew up. And I still remember our principal coming into our lunchroom that day to tell us about it. Yeah, that was a crazy day. I remember seeing that video over and over, grainy video on the news. It shocked everybody. I mean, I remember back in the early 80s, watching a space shuttle get launched was amazing, and not routine, but we were long past the Apollo missions where rockets would blow up, it felt like. So watching one get destroyed 12 seconds into a launch was unfathomable. So, and the world was watching when it happened. It's crazy. The Berlin Wall. This was easily and probably one of the most iconic things about Reagan's presidency was the end of the Cold War and the taking down of the Berlin Wall. Everyone remembers his famous speech where he says, "Mikhail Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Very famous. We got the briefcase for nukes, no big deal. Just left it laying around. We got some tunnels for the kids going through the Berlin Wall. That's fun. It's right under a swastika. And of course, Russia with Mikhail Gorbachev, who, by the way, died yesterday at the age of 91.
On December 8, 1987, the two leaders overcome their differences and agree to destroy an entire class of nuclear weapons.
It is in the name of eternal humanity that we have today performed our momentous deed.
The following spring, I went to Moscow where President Gorbachev and I signed the formal ratification papers putting the INF agreement into force. They came to respect each other. Probably even hate each other. They were very different kind of people.
That speech I was just talking about where he told him to tear down that wall, that's the suit he was wearing. That's pretty cool. Oh, and this is the speech. There it is. Wow. It's pretty historic. This is going to talk about the way he liked to hang out, which was on his ranch, and apparently have half a horse. So we got tunnels through the swastika walls and the half horse that melted into the floor for the kids to ride. Fun times. So Rancho del Cio was the name of their ranch. Oh, that's cool. That's the presidential symbol made out of nails. Huh. Finishing nails. That's pretty neat. Look at that 44 Magnum revolver. We've got his cowboy hat. Seen that before. His boots. And apparently Dirty Harry's revolver. Collection of belt buckles. I'm assuming, yeah, I guess these were all his. RRs. An etched face of his. 1985. Mule Days. President Reagan. These are some of the saddles he used. Check, that one's got a saber on it. That's awesome. This is retreats to Camp David. Oh, the Norman Rockwell piece. That's pretty awesome. He did that in 1968. That's interesting. Wow, long before he was president. This, of course, is when he died in 2004. Died of Alzheimer's, which is just a horrific disease for anyone to go through. Ugh. Heartbreaking.
But with Ronald Reagan's passing, some very fine days are behind us. Meet him now, and that is worth our doing.
But we will join him soon enough. All of us. When we are home. When we are free.
That is awesome. So this is a World War II exhibit that's on seasonal. I don't know how long it's here for, but I'm gonna go check it out because I love me some World War II history. Ah, the old carrier pigeons with the messages. Wow. Some bunks. Life magazine. My dad still has his Foot Locker from Vietnam. It looks still very much the same. Already? Wow. That's cool. What do we have here? The comics that came out during the war. Wow. Look at this. Captains. Wow. So these are on loan from Marvel. This is actually all from the Captain America movies. There's Bucky's costume. Cap shield. Screen used. That's awesome. And then randomly we have Jojo Rabbits. Some of their costumes. Ah, U-571. John Bon Jovi's costume. Allied, that was a good movie. Brad Pitt's costume. And then we got... I can't tell what these costumes were. I don't recognize what they're from. And then there's the door that is in the end of Captain America 1 where he rips off the door. Not end of it, but you know what I'm talking about. And then they bring it back up for the end of the Captain America series, actually. Because he saved the man. That's pretty neat. Lots of pistols and guns. Wow, that's a 45 pistol. Look at that. Huh. Medic tent. Truck. Some testimonials are playing from different veterans on the screens. Got a regulation rifle there. A Browning 9mm. Medic helmet. Big spotlight. Another gun. Man, look at these guns. It's crazy. The size of these things. This tank. It's awesome. So just like I've seen at some of the other presidential museums, they have a piece of the Berlin Wall. It's pretty cool. What a view behind it, huh? So this is where Ronald and Nancy Reagan are laid to rest. Out of all the presidential resting places I've seen thus far, resting on this hill, looking at that view, they definitely have the best one. I mean, that's amazing. But they are both right here. Ronald in 2004 and Nancy in 2016. And here together forever. Hard to get over that view. That view is unbelievable. So cool to have a museum right up on top of this mountain. Man, yeah, it'd be pretty awesome to work here too, I would think. The workers have been really, really nice. Honestly, I haven't run into any rude workers at any of the presidential museums. A lot of them utilize volunteer help as well. Ooh. This is a stealth aircraft. This reminds me of that 80s movie from during Reagan's presidency with Clint Eastwood. Was it Firefox? Where he had to sneak in and steal the stealth aircraft back. It was pretty awesome. I wonder if that movie holds up. I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. Ooh. It's right out of G.I. Joe. F-14. That's pretty neat. Got some missiles, no big deal. We'll just assume those are decommissioned. This is a very large complex. Let's just say that. It is very large. I'm not sure if it's the largest presidential museum and library, but it's got to be close. Well, maybe there isn't. Maybe I haven't seen the largest one yet, but this one's pretty big. I gotta say, the interactive exhibits that this presidential museum and library has over the other ones that I've seen so far is pretty impressive. A lot of, push here, just interacting with the person that's there to look at it. I like that. I think that's more modern in museums, to make exhibits that aren't just look with your eyes. It gets kids involved, helps make it more interesting for parents to bring families, which is more money for the museum. So it's a good takeaway. Well guys, that view is going to be the end of our video here. Really enjoyed this presidential library, and I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. And I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next time. Bye now.